So that's a quick review of what we learned, and I'm going to turn back to Evie so that she can facilitate some questions and discussion. I will suggest that we perhaps begin with some clarifying questions. If anybody has any questions or wants a little more information about the data before we get into some of the broader questions, I'd be happy to address those. I'm going to now get off of the desktop view, though you can certainly access this. You can see the links by going through GESNA's website if you'd like to do that on your own. Anybody have any clarifying questions?
So maybe I'll just start off and maybe we can get some discussion going that way?
Great.
Okay. Question number 1 asked, how does this snapshot of Jewish Hebrew high school students compare with your impressions and understandings of teens who you know? And I'll just give a quick example of this. Once I really looked at this survey, I did 2 things. I realized the first thing that I have to do is share this immediately with our faculty. And so at our opening faculty meeting this year, that this was the base of our meeting, and it opened up to a wonderful conversation, and it really got our teachers, many of our rabbis, really thinking about what they're doing and how they're teaching it in all different kinds of ways. And number 2, the question, what are they worried about, really, really hit home with me. And when I thought, I knew that kids were worried about their future, and that was the number 1 response. But the second response, showing that these kids were really worried about their physical and mental well-being as they became adults, really hit home. And from this, we have instituted a wellness series at our school that is very well received by both the kids and parents. And we are doing these programs for kids and their parents. We've already had a very successful workshop on teen suicide and one just recently on bullying. Our next wellness series is going to be in January, where Vanessa Van Petten is going to speak to our kids about cyberbullying, computers, health and wellness when it comes to being tied into the Internet. So those are the kinds of things that I have done immediately just using this brief survey that was done by the kids last year. Can anybody else talk about their impressions of the survey?
I think Rob wanted to say something.
We had a question about what region of the country was surveyed, or who, was there a particular class or group? I think we missed that introduction part.
Sure. We sent the survey out through the Nachas schools. So we sent to our listserv, Nachas includes 50 member schools, and we asked the directors to send it out to their students and to invite them to respond. This was something that we did sort of in the 11th hour in preparation for our annual conference last year, and so we ended up sending it out to people only in May, which was after many of the schools had closed, which is why we were pleasantly surprised to get 219 responses. But it came from all over the country. Most of the Hebrew high schools run between grades 8 through 12, with the highest concentration being probably in those early grade 8, 9, 10 years.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well, let's go on then. The next question is, what additional roles should Teen Service Jewish organizations such as all of ours and programs play to address what teens say is on their minds. So how do we really talk to kids? How do we really get to know them?
And I think connected to this is how do you train your own staff to actually do this effectively, to engage with the teens and to uncover what they're really thinking and what they're really concerned about so that you're able to best meet their needs.
When we did our bullying workshop a few weeks ago, what we did was we surveyed our students to ask them what their impression is of bullying, why kids bully, what are the reasons they're bullying. And we took their answers and we framed the workshop around their answers. So really just coming out and asking them questions is a really good way of getting some good information. And doing it anonymously really helps, by the way.
Rob, did you want to make another comment or ask another question?
Hi, this is Murphy Levin. I'm with Rob Murray in Detroit. And I'm wondering if you're able to expand somewhat upon just the raw data. What educational implications does this information have for us as educators of teens? What do we do with it? How does it help us plan for our educational program?
That's true.
So I think Evie just gave a couple of really concrete examples. Anybody else want to offer any? Whether you're an access person who's already had access to this information and able to manipulate it, or whether you're just listening to the call, do you have any thoughts about how you might use some of this to influence the programming or the curricula that you're developing for your teenagers?
Hi, this is Panina. I think what the survey did for me was kind of confirm the kids that I knew were coming to my program. And for me, it's more of a counter-argument to the folks who say, oh, the kids are just coming because they want to be social and hang out with their friends. And I use it really as justification to show that they're coming actually for content and depth of relationships and things like that, rather than just, let's just do holla making with them. Does that make sense?
Well, and I think also that so many kids say they want to be with their friends, and how do we use that to our advantage to make our schools better and attract more kids? And if that's why they're coming, then let's use that. Let's not just say that doesn't mean anything, because it really does.
This is Beth. I think it's difficult to, this is the first time I've really looked at the information because I couldn't make the conference last summer, but I think it's difficult to say that we can, quote unquote, use this information. Although, Evie, I think you came up with some really great things that you are using it in a way. But I think the question was posed, how do we use it for our teachers, to teach them, in other words, how to be close to the kids. I honestly don't think that's something you can teach a teacher. In other words, you can't really teach a teacher how to talk to kids. Certainly, you can share the information. I think it's important to share the information. That they should know where the kids are at, quote unquote, these days, and I think that's very important. But I think it's how to use it is that's not an easy question to answer. At least not for me. Maybe somebody else can come up with some other ideas, but putting in my 2 cents.